ID to unlock it. Oh, what do you do? Oh, over here.
You have to place it face down, baby.
Oh, face
The other
down.
way. There you go. Like that.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right.
Scan it again. No, el vato quiere beer y no sabe ni scan la ID.
Well, hey, this is my first time ever doing this.
Select what door you want.
Door
Oh my god.
6. Door number 6.
Oh, you win $1,000.
Unlock door. Now I can open it.
Breaking shocking news in Mexico, which we're seeing this happen all over the world. They've officially made the biometric CURP ID mandatory. Going to be rolled out February 2026, full rollout. But they want iris scans, fingerprints, photos in a QR code. This is getting closer and closer to what's going on in China, man. There's going to be facial recognition next, guaranteed. So what's with the AI being permeated into our realities here? What's the big idea behind it? Well, I can tell you that there's a plan. It's a very devious one. It's more shocking than any science fiction movie you've ever seen. Because this is real life, and those movies are actually based on what's kind of going on behind the scenes. Now, this is going to be promoted to us as efficient and convenient, and it will speed things up. And it's for your safety. Don't forget about your safety. And then the final thing will be that they're going to sell it to you as is merging, getting closer and closer to AI actually makes you superhuman. It's a tool that empowers you. When really, if you fully got merged with AI, you wouldn't be superhuman, you'd be inhuman. This is part of the plan, and it has to do with the reason they're adding so many chemicals to the food, air, and water supply that weakens us. Breaking news out of Vietnam. Vietnam has deactivated and seized the funds from more than 86 million bank accounts belonging to citizens who refused to hand over their biometric data. Officials claim the move is about stopping fraud and money laundering, while at the same time driving the country toward a cashless society. Vietnam is being used as a testing ground for what now many are calling the new banking order. Well, that's a ballsy way to do it, because my understanding is that they'd be smarter offering incentives to get biometric data going, digital ID. And then eventually, once like 70 or 80% of the population already has it, then you can make it mandatory. But doing that wouldn't fly in many other countries. This is obviously part of a shocking agenda.
There's a coordinated global policy push for digital IDs as the new form of government-issued identification credentials. And they're essentially all based on your biometric data, which can be your fingerprints, your face, the iris of your eyeball. And the idea is essentially to collect all of that data and have it housed or have it tied directly to your digital ID. So your physical ID will be mapped to the digital ID. Digital IDs are not really a separate project from CBDCs and this new digital financial system. And UN documentation and also documentation from the Bank of International Settlements, they very overtly state that CBDCs and digital IDs are meant to go together. And without digital IDs, the CBDC digital finance system cannot exist. One of the reasons it can't exist without that is because of the KYC functionality built into this digital financial system. They have the know your customer protocols. They have to know who you are. And so they want to have your wallet tied to a digital ID and have that digital ID be mapped to your physical ID through the biometric data collection. So there's different efforts to make digital IDs either as NFTs, non-fungible tokens. There's also the efforts of Sam Altman of OpenAI and his WorldCoin project, whereby you scan your iris, you give them the biometric credentials of your eyeball. They give you a unique identifier, a digital ID, and it's inherently tied to a digital wallet. That is the same model the UN is using. They've already implemented it for refugees getting food assistance from the World Food Program. It's called Building Blocks. It's on blockchain. It involves refugees scanning their irises. And in order to buy food or receive their rations, they have to check out of a grocery store style place in the refugee camp, and they check out biometrically with an eyeball scan, and then the amount of food they have, the monetary value of that is subtracted from their digital wallet connected to their digital ID and their iris. So ID 2020, the UN and other stakeholders in this particular sphere often argue that the reason this is necessary is because of what they call the identity gap. And the identity gap is the claim that the lack of digital ID is preventing people, mainly the world's poor, from accessing essential services, whether it's banking, whether it's education, whether it's healthcare. They claim the only way for these people to be able to access these services is to onboard them to these identity schemes.
This is Revelations 13 and 16. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom, let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. This is where 666 comes from. Ka'ala Yahweh Bashim Al-Shai, Bashim Rakabradash. Double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders, the great millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect, with the house of David reborn again in this generation. And shalom to the 130 YASHAYA-LA, who today were known as the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, who before losing our true heritage, we were known as, and still are, the true Hebrew Israelites of the Holy Bible. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about just an update on the system, or should I say the beast system that is being built up here in Babylon the Great. Now, in the first video that you watched in this lesson, you can see some Issacharite, naively, being amused by the new security system in that convenience store where you had to scan your ID before the beverage door would open. Now, I'm sure we've all noticed that these type of doors have been getting installed all over the place, from your Rite Aids, the pharmacy stores, Target, all these places, but they haven't been used or locked, right? What they've had instead is simply just posters put in front of them, and the locking mechanisms there, but they're just not used. But again, just like these credit card machines that have the chip readers, and they have all these different stages of different payments you could take that don't go into effect until a couple of years down the road. Because I remember when you would go to the store, you would always have to slide your credit card for it to make a payment. Then they started telling you to, insert your card or insert your chip, right? Which definitely is, that's what is it? Where they're getting you ready for it, right? They're conditioning us. And then after that, now you have the tap feature, right? Where you take your credit card and you tap it on the top on that little logo. And again, all of these are conditioning steps to get you ready for the B system, which is going to eventually require you to scan your hand, right, instead of your ID or your phone. But what's going to happen is, before we get to that step, these devils, these Edomites, which is the biblical name for the so-called Caucasian and Israeli race, they're setting up the foundations to enable this beast system, right? Which eventually is going to require you to put, these chips or your digital identity into your hand or into your forehead. Okay, and what does that mean? That means that in the coming future, once this digital ID is set up, and everybody's, used to it, and everybody's used to the new digital dollar and the digital social credit system and everything that's been digitized, or as they term it, tokenized, they're going to offer it at first to people as a convenience to put it on a microchip, which can then be inserted into your hand, right? Or if you are one of the people who have taken the Neuralink brain implant, right, along with all these different companies out there who are building these brain implants, what's going to happen is you'll be offered to load your digital identity onto those brain chips. Okay, now this here is ultimately, against what the Bible tells us for us Israelites, the Negro, Latino, and Native Americans, and all those whose father's lineage goes back to that bloodline. And why is that? Well, Because you see in Leviticus it tells us there's a law for the slaves that want to stay with their masters after their time of servitude, that being 7 years, right? If they want to stay with their master forever, the master has to then basically puncture them with an awl, which is basically like an ice pick, right? Well, the modern day awl would be, as Apostle Tahar, coins it, the digital awl, which is the syringe with those RFID microchips in them. But the point being is that, by doing that act, it causes a spiritual effect, and that spiritual effect is to be basically rejected by the Lord. Okay, this is Habakkuk 2 and 3. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. And just like we've been warning about this, for years, and especially when you go back to when this first started to come on the scene, all the way back to Elder High Priest Abba Bivens back in the 50s, he was warning about this, right? And back then, he didn't know exactly what the mark of the beast was, right? He didn't understand the RFID microchips because they weren't invented back then, right? It was the apostles who started to coin that it was the RFID chip, okay? And now, what's happening is, like it tells us in Daniel, right, that the vision is for an appointed time, right here, it says, but at the end it shall speak. Well, right now, when we're in the end, these concepts of having that mark in your hand or being asserted, we understand what that means now. Because why? Because the technology has advanced to a point where we can now understand implantable RFID chips. We understand what that is, right? Try to explain that to, somebody, an Israelite that was back in the time of the Messiah, YASHAYA-LA, right? They wouldn't understand what they were seeing, right? John the Revelator explained it as getting a mark in their, in their hand or their forehead, right? He wasn't going to come out and say, oh, all these people got RFID implantable chips, right? People wouldn't even understand what that was 2,000 years ago. So, but again, now that we are in these end times, right, we are able to, understand what these prophecies mean, because they're relevant to us in this time. This is Isaiah 55 and 6. Seek ye Yahweh Bashem Yahshai while he may be found. Call ye upon him while he is near. Let the wicked forsake his way, and the unrighteous man his thoughts, and let him return unto Yahweh Bashem Yahshai, and he will have mercy upon him, and to our God, for he will abundantly pardon. You see that? So the things that are coming on you are things that we're not going to be able to avoid. Everybody is going to have to go through this hour of temptation. But the reason why you need to seek the Lord now while he is still around is because the Lord is going to put a spiritual hedge of protection around his elect, around his people. Now all these other people, these wacky Christians, the false religious following people, right? Just the regular, average day Babylonian and just a regular inhabitant of the world who are not Israelites, all these other heathen nations, they're going to basically be ushered in to this new world order system, and they're going to accept the mark of the beast. Okay, and why is that? Well, because they're going to want to eat, they're going to want to participate in society, they're going to want to go to their ball games and their, foosball and their, tournaments and their movies and all these things. They're going to want to be able to go to Disneyland and, go to the latest, music festival. So what's going to happen is that these people are going to give in, and Babylon's going to take them. But this is why the Lord has put it on our spirits, starting with the apostles on down, to warn you people, which are, you Israelites who have woken up to this truth, woken up to the true narrative of the world, to warn you that these things are coming, and to show you examples, to be those witnesses that are described in Revelations that would come in the end time to warn the people and to ultimately testify to the earth of what's going on, right? And that's what we're doing. We're showing you what is coming and what to expect, right? We're here revealing the wicked. We're showing the breakdowns of the Bible, and this is all because the Lord has mercy upon you, upon the house of Israel. And if you're watching this, consider yourself lucky, because again, you're able to understand what the Bible's actually talking about, right? Where these other people out here, they have no clue, and they're simply just gonna go along to get along, right? And what does the scripture tells us? It says, the simple, or it said, a prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple move on and are punished. And that's what ultimately it's going to come down to, right? Those righteous Israelites who are going to understand what's going on, we're going to research this stuff, we're going to find out what it is, and we're going to reject it, just like a lot of us did with the C-19 jabs, right? And ultimately, we're not going to, excuse me, participate in this beast system, and we're going to avoid it, Lord willing. But again, by having the Lord, provide that hedge of spiritual protection around us, He's going to keep us from the hour of temptation, unlike these other people who don't want to have the help of the Lord, right? They're going to face this beast system on their own, and they're going to be swallowed up. So either way, I wanted to show you these examples. I wanted to show you how these devils are orchestrating a worldwide push for the digital IDs, because soon after that is going to come the implantable, digital IDs, which they're going to, at first they're going to offer as an option, as a secure option, and then eventually, once enough people adopt it, once the 2/3 adopt it, then they're going to make it mandatory, just like they do on all their other policies. So either way, hopefully this video was edifying. I'll keep till the next time. I want to give all honor and glory and praises to Yahweh, B'Hashem, El Shai, B'Hashem, Rakakodash. Shalom.